pjnet.tv. It's a brand new week this Monday, May the 2nd of 2022. It's 9 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States. And we're starting a brand new week with a brand new guest. And first-time guest number 266 is standing by in our green room. And we have a chat room waiting to hear and see. So enough of the pleasantries. Let's do a countdown to Studio 8, starting now. Well, good evening and welcome to pjnet.tv, Studio 8, our good old standby studio, the one we kind of started with a long time ago, and it's still good. I love it. Always a pleasure, always an honor to bring first-time guests onto our program. Our purpose here is to provide a platform for everyday Christians to share their walk with Christ. Now, I don't know how everyday our guest is. He's a little bit extraordinary. And Mark Hancock joins us from his resort in the Carolinas. Is that what you called it? The lake house, cabin, something?
We do live on a lake, so I call it home.
You call it home. Mark, folks, Mark heads up an organization that we're going to talk about, Trail Life USA. We will not be able to scratch the surface of what this man is doing for the kingdom. But Mark, tell us, what is Trail Life USA?
A wonderful subject for me. Trail Life USA is a Christ-centered, boy-focused character leadership and adventure organization. We're for boys from kindergarten through 12 years old. It's an adventure organization, and I'm sorry, kindergarten through 12th grade. It's an organization for men and boys. We're organized in troops all across the country. As you can imagine, with an outdoor organization, that's what we have. Is we have troops and patrols and uniforms and handbooks and awards and all the stuff that goes hiking and camping, all the stuff that goes with another organization that's been around for over 100 years, the Boy Scouts of America. But in 2013, it appeared that Boy Scouts of America were going to be abandoning a lot of their traditional family values that churches have been able to support over the years. And so Trail Life was birthed. About 300 volunteers across the country got together and started talking about what an organization that was Christ-centered and boy-focused would look like. And in that time, now we've grown. We're in all 50 states. We have over 900 troops and about 40,000 members across the country, all enjoying the outdoors in a Christ-centered, boy-focused, male-centric environment.
That answers a question I had later on, and I applaud you. Now, were you involved with Boy Scouts and you were seeing some of this happen firsthand, or were you looking at it from the outside in?
Well, I wasn't in Boy Scouts growing up, but we were a homeschooling family, and there was a homeschool troop in our town, and we thought that was a good way to get our boys active with another group of kids. And so we were in a Boy Scout troop, but it was chartered by a church. And when Boy Scouts began to make their changes, we knew there would be a lot of churches that would no longer be able to charter Boy Scouts troops. In fact, our own church, the one that we were chartered at, said, "I'm sorry, we just can't do this anymore." And so somehow I got swept up in this movement. There was 300 volunteers across the country. I was the least likely to be sitting at this table. There were 50 of us that gathered in Louisville, Kentucky in 2013. I got one of those golden tickets and got to go to that meeting. And out of that, 7 men were selected as a steering committee. And we held a inaugural convention 63 days later after that first gathering in Nashville, Tennessee. We had 1,200 people, 1,100 men come from 44 states to do our inaugural launch. And then 3 months later, we launched officially with our first day of Trail Life on January 1st, 2014. And I stepped off that steering committee, which had become the board of directors. I stepped off the board of directors to become the CEO.
I kind of connected the dots, and I applaud you, Mark, and your team for what you're doing. How have the churches responded to your response?
Well, it's been wonderful, and especially recently, we're seeing 20 to 30% growth a year. We even grew during COVID, and I think that it's because people are, recognizing this is sort of kind of crazy world we're in. And boys are really in trouble. They're 3 times more likely to be in special education, twice as likely to have ADHD. They are behind girls in every single academic category. The fastest growing demographic in suicide is boys from 10 to 14. We're in a culture that toxic masculinity and generations now of discounting men and fathers is it's beginning to take effect in this next generation. And so people understand that boys need a program that's designed for them, aimed at their strengths, that understands that boys and girls are different. I know that's a radical thing to say today, but we really believe that boys and girls are different. And so we have a program that's designed for them, for how special they are and how unique they are in this culture. And I think that's ringing true with churches and parents. Only 36% of parents believe that churches are meeting the needs of boys. So that's 64% of churches are not meeting the needs of boys. So Trail Life is being embraced by churches because it is a way for the church to reach the boys and the men in not just in their church, but in their community. About 50% of our members don't attend the church where they attend the troop. They may not attend any church at all, but those families are being won to Christ through the troop activity, and churches are growing because of it. So a really good relationship with our churches. We like to say, we're not just an outdoor organization having a Christian experience. We are at our core, a Christian ministry that uses the outdoors in order to grow boys into godly men. So we are partners with a local church. We just don't meet in their basement. We are an outreach of that local ministry. So the churches that understand the power of that connection and reaching men and boys in their community are growing in their association with Trail Life. So they love having Trail Life at their churches.
I think you well underscored some recent cultural trends, and the Boy Scouts were right in that path and on that trajectory. And it's the demasculization. I don't know if I want to call it feminization, but I could. Toxic masculinity, whatever that is. These trends. But I think there was a trend that was started before that was part of the groundswell of this. I grew up in a home with a mom and a dad. Most of my friends, almost every single one of them, grew up in a home with a mom and a dad.
Yeah.
Today, not so much.
No. And that's what, we have what we call our proven process for growing boys into godly men. And one of the statistics we talk about is that it's not just in the households, but overall, the contact that boys have with men as leaders is very rare. 1 out of 4 boys does not have a father in their home. 78% of teachers are female. So a lot of boys are just seeing women in leadership. And those are great examples for girls. And girls are doing great. They have these wonderful examples. Single moms doing a Herculean task, really, in holding a house together. Gosh, how difficult that must be. So these girls have this wonderful example of a mom just doing a great job holding it all together. But there's no example for that boy in that household. And then he goes to school and it's a female teacher. And then he goes to Sunday school and there's a woman teaching there. And everywhere he goes, he's surrounded by women who are leading. So in Trail Life USA, we're male-centric, meaning that above a certain level, above the 5th grade, all of our boy contact positions, working with boys, is all men. Because we know that in order to build godly men, you have to start with godly men leading them. And so first thing to say that boys are unguided because of this. They're really lacking in our culture the guidance of a male leader. So Trail Life restores that with our wonderful male leadership, about 12,000 volunteers across the country. And we also say that boys are ungrounded in that, there are no absolute truths that are pointed to anymore. A majority of Americans now say that the Bible, they do not recognize the Bible or God as a moral authority. I mean, that's a majority of our country now. So boys are growing up without that grounding. And so Trail Life, as an unapologetically Christian organization, grounds them in those absolute truths, which boys need. They like to have truth to push up against. And we also say that they're unappreciated. We don't recognize the differences between them. We treat boys and girls as if they're the same, and they're just not. Boys develop more slowly, emotionally, intellectually. There's, like I mentioned earlier, they're behind, and our schools are designed for sit still, be quiet, pay attention, which is not what boys are wired for. So there's a lot against standing against boys. It's like boyhood is some kind of social disease that needs to be eradicated. And Trail Life believes in boys, and parents and churches that see that and can recognize the struggles that their boys are having are really rushing to Trail Life in great numbers. So we're thrilled to have them.
Mark, I'm really proud of what you're doing, and I applaud you. But this all sounds really good. And it reminds me of our mission statement. It's real simple, to the point, it sounds good, but the implementation is actually very complex. Mm-hmm. So tell me what this looks like. Say I've got some children, some boys, one's in the 2nd grade, one's in the 5th grade, and one's in the 10th grade. Mm-hmm. When I'm coming to you, pitch me on enrolling my kids, my boys, in your program. What exactly are they going to do? You're building character, but you're doing it through, let me guess, activities more than lectures?
Activity. We're surrounding them with godly men. So they have examples of men who are leading, but they would typically, and again, troops are like churches because they're chartered by churches. So if you said to me, what happens in church? Well, you have to say, well, which church are you talking about? But in a typical troop, you're going to show up and they're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, which is something that we don't do much anymore. And they're going to repeat the Trail Life Oath together, and they're going to make their announcements about the evening. And then they're going to go about working on different badges and things, which may be anything from citizenship to archery. And so that evening they're working together in their group. So if you had a 2nd grader, he'd be with the Woodlands Trail, which is a kindergarten through 5th grade. And the middle boy would be with the Navigators, which is the 6th through 8th grade. And then the older boy will be in the high school group, which is called the Adventurers. And at each level, they're getting more independent. So at the lower level, the adults are sort of leading the boys. We're concentrating on knowledge. We're helping them to develop knowledge. They're learning a lot of facts. And in the Navigators program, the adults are beginning to step back, and they elect leaders in their patrol, the Navigators patrol. So they are working to sort of begin to govern themselves. And they're taking all that knowledge that they learned as a Woodlands Trail, and they're beginning to understand it in their own way. So that's the understanding phase. Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. This is from Proverbs. And then the adventurer level, they're applying wisdom. And that is when the adults are sitting in the back of the room, and the adventurers are planning their camp out, they're planning their hiking trip, they're planning their fundraiser, they're planning what badges they're going to work on next, who needs to bring what food to the next camp out, how many miles they're going to be able to hike a day. They're basically running the troop and their patrol, and that's how we build leadership into it, because they have opportunities to lead. So they're advancing, they're learning these things along the way. And there's, when you think about it, Mark, there's not really a lot of places that boys can have a leadership experience. Boys are wired to ask 3 questions: who's in charge, who's with me, and what is our mission? And if you don't answer those questions for boys, it tends to look either like apathy or rebellion. If you're not establishing who's in charge, if you're not saying who's with me, this is who we are as a group, and if you're not saying this is the mission, you lose boys. And we see that in school all the time. You see a substitute teacher walks in and says, "I'm your teacher," and the boy says, "I'm not so sure. I'm not sure you can handle us. So you've got to show me that you're in charge." The girls are typically going to be a little more compliant. Like, okay, you're the teacher. What do you want us to do? Boys will challenge that. And that's what looks like rebellion. It looks like apathy, but it's not. It's just their inside gyroscope that says, I need to know these things. And so in Trail Life, we establish those things. Who's in charge? They have a patrol leader that they follow after. The younger boys are following after the adults. Who's with me? They have a patrol. Even inside the patrol, they may have a smaller patrol of 6 or 8 boys, and they name themselves. They wear a patch. They have a call. They have a flag that they wave. So they're developing their own identity. And then what's our mission? We make it real clear for them what their mission is. And who does this really well, who we could really learn a lot from, is gangs. Yes. Gangs set up really clearly who's in charge, who's with me. They have their colors and the patches and their signs and all those things.
Protocols.
Who's with me? And what's our mission? So that's why gangs are growing so quickly, because that's what boys are drawn to. So in Trail Life USA, we're giving the boys that same experience. And so they're growing together. So on that night that you visit, you're going to see those things evident in the program if you're paying attention. Now, the boys are just having fun and they're just learning things. But if you step back and you're observing what's going on, you can begin to see these things woven throughout the program where there's a deep work going on there. You know, I spent a number of years as a mental health counselor and a marriage and family therapist. And so, you know, we've grown some knowledge and some awareness of what's happening on a developmental level for boys. And so we meet them where they are, and we give them these opportunities. Things like risk and competition. You know, who isn't aware that that's something boys like? I mean, they turn everything into a game and a competition. So we do that. We have risk. We have competition. It's safe, but they do hard things. We encourage them to do hard things. We don't shield them from failure. We let them experience failure and then recovery and success, and failure, recovery, and success. And that's why we have so many boys who are this failure to launch thing with young men, because we don't let them fail. And, you know, we're in danger of raising a generation of what I call unproductive narcissists. You know, they're unproductive because we don't expect anything from them. And the narcissists because we haven't let them fail. And so they think they're going to be the next Bill Gates, but they don't want to take math. So we restore these things that are the building blocks for biblical masculinity. And we're just seeing great results.
Trying to guard our time. I have a little game we're going to play. I'm going to read you just a few items from a resume, and I want you to estimate the age of the person who has accomplished, among other things, the following, including but not limited to 2 master's degrees, youth and college pastor, associate pastor, homeless ministry director, and a global event director on an event spanning 5 continents. Now, how old would somebody have to be to have done all those things?
That's an interesting question. You left off there 15 years running an advertising agency in there somewhere.
I said, yeah, including but not limited to. Yes. And that is I've been in advertising, Mark. Yeah. Congratulations for getting. How old are you, Mark?
Well, I'm not sure what I want to be when I grow up. So I'm still trying different things. I'm loving, been with Trail Life now for 8 years, which is kind of a long time for me to do one thing. I like to do different things. But I'm just loving the mission and seeing the work. It's probably the crowning achievement that all those things prepared me for. So I'm excited to be doing what I'm doing now. Okay.
That's Mark's resume, folks. Part of it anyway. We're running out of time. I didn't want to dismiss without bringing up another item on his resume as well. You're a published author. Why are we sitting here until we die? Did you write this book for therapy?
It's part of it. I started writing that book before Trail Life, and then I had to lay it down for a while. And then the publisher came to me and said, "We really want to do it. Will you finish it?" And that was good because I then got to work in part of the Trail Life story into it. But I heard that question. I was in Accra, Ghana, which is the capital city of Ghana, and that comes out of Scripture in 2 Kings chapter 7. Incredible story, and I use that story as the basis and that question as a basis for drawing men and women out of an ordinary life to where we challenge ourselves with the greater things of God. One of my a core sentence in there would be, if you can do what you're doing in your own strength, is it really worth doing?
Yeah, you set a higher goal. Amen.
Yeah, I think God calls us to do stuff that we're not capable of doing. I'm not capable of doing what I'm doing in Trail Life. I was never involved in scouting or anything, but so it caused me to hug God really tight. And I think that's what he was after. So I'm drawing people out. The inference is that you can be sitting in church and it's like, why am I sitting here until I die? Really? Is this all? Is this all there is? Is this, church is a wonderful place, but really is that the height of my Christianity is that I go once a week to this building. So it's calling people out to do big kingdom business for God.
I'm going to take the liberty of extra time because you've said something that resonates. One of my many keynote speeches that I seldom get to, I call it Cage Christianity. And I open with a roaring lion behind me, pawing up the dirt, and what a fearsome animal. But I have no fear of that lion as long as it remains in that cage.
Mm-hmm.
And is it possible that we have literally erected tens of thousands of cages across the land, and on Sunday morning we unlock the gate and let ourselves in it? By the way, Mark, when that lion is in the cage, if it needs water, it gets water. If it needs food, it gets food. If it needs medical attention, its needs are met.
Yep.
But that lion was not bred to be captive. And I am convinced that Satan is perfectly satisfied for us to go sit in church until we die, as long as we stay there.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
Well,
and if the goal
I
is
didn't
to
intrude on your time because we were at 20 minutes.
Okay.
Mark, if we spend another 20 minutes, we couldn't cover it all. But we hope that as things progress, I hope that you'll report back to us. And if you have some testimonies of people that have participated in your program, Trail Life. Oh, you know what I didn't do, Mark? I am so sorry. Folks, look, we couldn't cover it all. Go to traillifeusa.com. That's not hard to remember, okay? And there you can connect with them. But we are out of time. Mark, we appreciate you standing in the gap for our young men and our developing men. You are making godly men. I wish we had more time, but thanks for sharing, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. God bless you.
All right. That was Mark Hancock here. What a story. Gosh, I wish we had more time, but we don't. Listen, the reason we don't have more time is in just a few minutes at the bottom of the hour, Casper Stockham joins us, as he does on every Monday night, from the great state of Colorado. And while I'm getting ready for